a lot of Christians like to say, oh, God is on the throne and he is Lord of all. And that's great. But is he on the throne of the little things in your life practically?
The little hidden things, the little foxes that are in the corner somewhere,
Right. Dethroning Jesus. Examine who is on the throne we serve or you serve. Quality people, this is Quality Life, advice to lead you closer to Christ. Make sure that
Wait for the algorithm,
because we don't want to be quality by ourselves. Guys, we got a question. And that question is, do you dethrone Jesus in your life? Big question. This is a big question. And we got a point that we want to make. And here's the first point before we get into our clips that we want to show you. You can only see the light in another person if you are not beholden to an ideology that dismisses them before you hear them. Now, that is big because let's use Christian denominations as an example. Say a Protestant is trying to engage in a conversation with a Catholic. And as a Protestant, you might think, okay, Catholics, I don't believe everything that they do believe, but they do believe the core of what we believe, essentially. They believe Jesus rose from the dead. They believe he's the way. They believe the core of Christian doctrine. But if you dismiss this Catholic as like somebody who doesn't know who they're talking about simply because they're Catholic, you can miss the truth of what God can reveal through them for you, simply because they don't behold to the same ideology that you have. Say that you're a Baptist or say that you're Presbyterian or something else. And so we have to be very careful about not serving the denominations, not serving the ideologies, and instead serving God, because if truth is truth, no matter who it comes from. But that doesn't mean that we don't always work to grow in wisdom so that we can understand, I may disagree with Catholics, or a Catholic, but if he says something, that is on the mark, that is not sinful, then it's like, I can take that and that really blessed me and I can apply that to my life. But also understanding if I engage in another area that I don't quite disagree with or that I don't quite agree with him on, we can talk about it and we can have a dialogue so that we can better advance the conversation so that we both can meet Jesus at the top of the mountain, essentially.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you do find yourself disagreeing with them, that's a great opportunity for you to, I guess, dive into apologetics in a sense and like deconstruct your faith a little bit to learn more about, why do I disagree with them? And then you might find out like, they're actually not that off like I thought they were.
Yeah, because I actually follow a lot of Catholics. I follow pretty much any denomination. I follow like really progressive Christians on YouTube, and I follow probably the strictest of Christians on YouTube. And pretty much everybody essentially is saying the same thing. They go about it in different ways. And we need to, instead of saying, oh, they're wrong, and just always calling people out for what they're doing wrong, it's like we need to engage in dialogue to focus on the things that are right, to elevate people in the right manner. Because when you're elevated in the right manner, the things that the sinful nature corrects itself, right? It's like if you throw a dart at a target and you don't hit the bullseye, you can throw another dart at the target and hit that bullseye. And you can just take the higher points. And now that you've hit the bullseye, it's like, okay, I know what I need to do to hit this bullseye more. And so sin actually self-corrects itself when you're actually aiming more properly. Does that make sense? And so we do have a video clip that we'd like to show you. It's from Beyond the Fundamentals, which is a YouTuber that I follow. And he kind of goes beyond literally the fundamentals of what he calls basically mammon Christianity is, and he really dives into the heart of what it practically means to seek Jesus. So I thought this clip was very, very interesting. Take a look.
In many people's lives who profess Christ, there is a rival. For some people, it's resentment, and resentment is winning out over Christ, and addiction is winning out over Christ. The inability to have good faith dialogue is winning out over Christ.
We're going to stop it right there, because it's like, who is on the throne of the things that you're serving? And this isn't, a lot of Christians like to say, oh, God is on the throne and he is Lord of all. And that's great. That is a great point to set for your life, is to have God on your throne. But is he on the throne of the little things in your life practically?
The little hidden things, the little foxes that are in the corner somewhere.
Right.
You know?
And that breaks down to like, are you working on your anger? Like, are you working on your comparison to other people, your jealousy? Are you working on those things? It's like, is the jealousy on the throne where Christ should be, right? Or like, those are things that you have to think about, and that's what he's hinting at right here. So let's continue.
But you know what the biggest ones are? It's not drugs, it's not sex, it's not
Here we
addiction.
go. Listen up.
It's not those gambling. It's not those, the big top 10 sin lists. What it is, what's really winning out over Jesus right now is ideological thinking and paradigmatic thinking. And people are trapped by it, and they're trapped into it. And that is winning out over Jesus in some people's lives who profess Jesus.
And that's exactly what we just say. People who already superimpose their ideas of this is the way that it's supposed to be, they get because they're actually not following Jesus if you're not able to engage in good faith dialogues with even believers who profess to serve the same God as you. It's like, what are you really doing if you're just saying, no, they're wrong? It's like, no, let's have a conversation on how we can both become more right, both become more righteous in Christ. And because truth be told, you're probably wrong in some areas. Your line of thinking probably isn't just 100% correct. There's always things that you can improve on, especially when we're talking about serving an infinite God. We always box ourselves into the Baptist ideology, the Calvinist ideology, this ideology, Presbyterian. And it's like, no, you can adopt that label, but your mind has to be ever expanding towards this infinite God, or you get to a point where everything's so systematic that God's not able to pour into you.
Yeah, and I remember something I heard a long time ago was you can't put God in a box. So that means if you're following God, that means your mindset can't be put in a box either. So, yeah.
All right, amen to that. Let's get back
They
into
have a
this.
Jesus ideology rather than a Jesus being.
Listen to this, guys.
Jesus the way. They don't have Jesus the way. They have Jesus the ideology. Like Spaceballs the lunchbox, Spaceballs the coffee mug. People have Jesus the lunchbox and Jesus the coffee mug and Jesus the ideology, Jesus the denomination, Jesus the church building, but they don't have Jesus the way of being. Jesus the way. They don't have Jesus the way. They don't know anything about that.
And that is a very important point, is because we wear the chain, this Jesus, and we see Jesus in this way and we see Jesus in that way, which is fine, because if we're using symbols and we're using things to point us towards Christ, that is fine. But when we start saying that, no, like, you have to, this is the way to Christ
If you don't
in
do
this
it,
thing, then it's
yeah.
almost like that is becoming the idol. And that leads us to our second point. We break the first commandment often when we put carnal matters on the throne of Christ. And that goes back to the anger, that goes back to the jealousy that we just talked about. It's like, what is on the throne of Christ in every single area of your life? Whether it's how you raise your kids, whether it's how you interact with your friends, with your family, what is on the throne of life? You really have to, or what is on that throne of whatever matter it is, you really have to evaluate yourself and have this self-awareness of, am I really seeking Christ in the manner and following his teachings in this way? Like, am I producing the fruits of the Spirit, right? Am I loving God with all my heart, mind, and soul? The first commandment that Jesus said, or the highest commandment that he said, in this field of my life, because in a lot of fields, I'll tell you, in my life personally, I'm not doing that. And that's why I constantly have to self-correct and constantly have to check myself on, okay, like I need some work here. And even when you think you have it, it may not be perfect. You might, revert back to old habits. And so you constantly have to seek Christ in every single area of your life.
Yeah, you can't just seek him in the problem areas. You have to seek him in the good ones too, because then you can become complacent and get to a point where you're like, oh, I don't really need God in this area because it's going totally fine. But you have to involve him in every aspect of your life.
No, that is absolute facts. We got a Bible verse for you. It is John 14:6. A lot of John today. Jesus said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And so this is really big because it's like, is Jesus your way? Or is the Baptist ideology your way? Is Jesus your way, or is the Catholic ideology your way, or the Orthodox ideology your way? It's like Jesus has to be above those ideologies, because those are not infinite ideologies. A lot of them, like orthodoxies, are more flexible and more not flamboyant, not flamboyant, guys. They're more flexible and I don't know,
Malleable, I guess.
malleable. I guess that's a good word, but don't be so beholden to. And that's why we had the conversation the other day about don't worship the teachers. Don't get so wrapped up in the teachers that all you do is like, okay, all I listen to is Bodhi Bacham. All I listen to is John MacArthur. They're great Bible teachers, but they may have kinks in their ideology that they don't see. Just because they've been serving God and they've been studying it for an extended amount of time, you still have to seek Jesus individually for yourself. They can't do it for you. Because truth be told, even if they tell you some truth, you may not even apply it in the right way. And so you always got to constantly be having that self-awareness and self-check of, am I really seeking Jesus in the way that maybe they said, or even checking what they said. Like that, and that goes from the most progressive to the most conservative. All right, so we have another video from Beyond the Fundamentals that I think kind of ties a lot of stuff together.
In many people's lives who profess Christ, there is a right. What I want to talk about
Okay, hold on. Here it is.
Today is applying Jesus Christ practically in your life. Practically.
Let's apply them practically,
Not
guys.
ideologically, not mentally, not affirming things about Jesus Christ. I have to affirm certain things to not be a heretic and to be orthodox. Well, you can be orthodox all day long and get fired from your job and get divorced and die out in the woods somewhere, okay? And you can do all of that orthodox, all right? You can make minimum wage or be out on the street begging for money, and you can be orthodox and do all that, right? But what Jesus brings is life, and life more abundantly. He does not bring an orthodoxy heresy spectrum, okay? That stuff is man-made. That stuff does not concern us. We don't need to worry about any of that stuff. We are interested in Jesus the way, not Jesus the ideology, all right? And so we want to be able to take any kind of situation that we're in, whether we have an addiction or whether we're trapped inside of an ideology or paradigmatic thinking or anything like that, and we want to apply Jesus to the situation and make it better.
And there you have it, folks. It's like we need to apply Jesus and seeking after him more practical. And that is actually our third point here that we're going to get into. It's we need to apply Jesus in our lives more practically and less ideologically. And do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, no.
You know, okay. But yeah, it's just like, are you seeking him in every single, like practically in your life? Like that's what Jesus is here for, is to elevate you and he's molding you into a whole person. But if you aren't seeking him, but you're seeking, these different ideas that are about him, but don't necessarily expand towards him, if you're not treating Jesus as the way, but you're treating these ideas as the way, then you got a problem, because you're going to be limited by those ideas. And to close out, we have one more Bible verse for you guys, and that is 2 Corinthians 3:17. It says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom."
Amen.
And this is just speaking, if you're seeking Jesus and he is the way, you have the Spirit of the Lord, and where that Spirit of the Lord is, there's actual freedom in seeking Jesus and seeking the way. There's not freedom when you're bound by these systems and these ideologies, because I heard an interesting metaphor. Basically, it's like you're able to be more free when you engage in things practically. So say you want to get better at disc golf. That's good. So Kenya, well, me too, because we're both not great at disc golf, because I've only played for a couple months, and today was her first day. So at first at disc golf, you're going to be really bad, and you might have moments where you surprise yourself and you're like, oh, that was a good throw, but it's still overall just really bad. It's very sinful, if you will. But if you sacrifice your time and you go through the process of practice and getting better, then you're able to become better at disc golf. And actually what happens is, as you get better, your body actually starts developing like this muscle memory, if you will. Like you're actually able to be more free in the sport of disc golf. You're more free in your movements. And that's similar to how Christ works in our life. It's like, okay, I'm trying to be more patient, and so I have to apply patience to these different things in my life. I have to exercise it until patience is a part of my being, and that's Christ working in you and through you. And that's what it means to seek Jesus as the way. All right, this has been fun. If you're watching the replay, you're going to want to watch this video next, because YouTube recommends it. They're recommending it to you. Make sure that you share this with a quality friend, and don't be to serve the Alpha and Omega. Don't be beta.
Fight for the algorithm.